Thanks so much for joining us today on Connect and Collaborate, where we come together each day to introduce you to our network of business and community leaders and discuss important issues that impact business in Colorado and the region. I'm Tammy Schaefer, your on-air producer, and today I'm talking with Jeff Wasden, president of the Colorado Business Roundtable. And this is a great opportunity to kind of recap what we've been doing all year, what we have planned for next year, and I think, Jeff, start out and remind everybody, you know, what's the Colorado Business Roundtable all about?
Well, this is really, thanks, Tammy. It's great to be on. It's great to really spend some time talking a little bit about COBRT, and I think as we really have had an incredible year, a chance to really look back and talk about some of the successes, some of the highlights and the opportunities, things that we've been working on, some of our current projects, and then really what's ahead for 2018 is we're already working on things like State of Higher Ed and Governor Forums that are already set. We've got a Fix the Debt event. We're working on an aerospace event already, and so 2018 is well underway. But there may be some folks out there that haven't seen the 800 op-eds and letters to the editors and branding of the COBRT that seems to be all over right now. And we really want to take some time to really chat and talk a little bit about who and what we are and make sure our listeners understand why we're here, why what we're doing matters, and why we need everybody in this ecosystem that, collaborating together, right? We're a component, a piece. What we do is important and it matters to business, but we are a player in a larger field of players that are all working on ensuring that Colorado is a great place to do business, right? It matters to the employees, it matters to the employers, and certainly to future generations and our economic success. The Business Roundtable nationally is a collection of some of the most powerful CEOs of the largest companies in the world. And the Business Roundtable is known for being a leading policy organization with pragmatic, thoughtful, impactful, powerful business leaders that, again, run these large companies. They do so with a lot of insight and a lot of data, and they make sound decisions as they talk about leading these billion-dollar companies into the future. What they do matters, and they can't do so with rash, faulty, uneducated decision-making skill sets and processes. They do so from a lot of grounded facts, information, and a lot of understanding about what they do and its impact on the bigger scene. And so the Business Roundtable really focuses on key issues like education and workforce, trade policy, international engagement, regulatory reform, immigration, energy, environment, infrastructure, tax and fiscal policy, technology and innovation. These big key areas, again, as you think about your future, as you're in the car driving or you're listening online, these are the areas that impact you, that directly impact your business. And so we have a state roundtable here, founded in 2001 by Gail Denninger, who really saw a missing piece in the Colorado landscape. We have some incredible chambers and trade associations and business leaders and NGOs and nonprofits working with government, working with education to continue to move the needle forward, to be impactful, and to experience the kind of successes that help Colorado be in the nation's forefront of places to do business, right? Where do you want to hang your shingle? And Colorado's a very desirous place because of all of those folks working together. But the missing component was really what the roundtable focuses on, and that's that bigger ticket, those bigger items at the national level, at the federal level that impact them. And we talk a lot, and you know, you look at the financial sector and the marijuana industry, or you look at the banking at J.P. Morgan, First Bank, Bank of America, Wells, so many of our great institutions in the financial sector that are part of the Business Roundtable. Local governments, our state government, don't impact their policy. It's things like Dodd-Frank and those national legislations that matter. When you look at our aerospace community, again, it's the federal issues that impact their bottom line. Energy policy, while we're dealing with certain local issues, it's the larger, again, federal and international landscape that's so important. And that's really the role of the Business Roundtable. We work with those local chambers, the state associations, on a lot of state issues that are critically important when you look at education, worker housing, infrastructure, transportation, education, water, the regulatory environment in this state, but we really play that national role.
Right.
We do things like congressional conference calls once a month where we bring our business community via AT&T, one of our sponsors in technology, onto a monthly call with our congressional delegation every month to ask questions, to learn about what's going on in D.C., how important that is to connect with them, to understand those important business issues that are there.
Yeah.
We do events that are really structured. We're not a networking, we're not a B2B, we don't do ribbon cuttings. That's really the role of the local
Right.
chambers
Yeah.
of commerce. Our events are really structured on policy issues, immigration, aerospace, tax policy, that are really drilling into, again, those key areas of focus of the BRT and why that matters.
Well, yeah, and where businesses can have that one-on-one with people making the
Yeah.
decisions.
Exactly, getting the right folks in the right room to focus on key issues, right? We have a robust media division
Yes.
of the COBRT. Obviously, we're on air with a daily radio show, which, again, is an incredible tool and resource because it allows us to bring folks in, our partners in, and get them on air and really talk about areas that are impactful to them, things that they're doing, celebrations, new innovations, mergers, acquisitions. Talk about the landscape that's happening here.
And it's more than just talking about it. We were able to, I think this is what's really cool, is we're able to provide them with a podcast and with a live stream video that they can then share on their social media,
Well,
on their website, wherever it's useful to them to get their message out to the right
How
people.
to share that? How do we shine that light? And you mentioned social media. We've got an incredible person that works in our social media, Alex, that does a great job tweeting and Facebook and posting through LinkedIn. A lot of the great things that we're doing, and again, a lot of the work that our partners and our collaborative partners and key stakeholders in this important area of biz development and economic development are focusing and engaged in. We've got an incredible newsletter that goes out every single week. You can sign up. You can subscribe to that. You don't have to be a Fortune company. You can go online to cobrt.com, hit subscribe, and get that every week. It'll tell you about events and policy issues and what's upcoming. That's a key issue. And then we've got Lisa that does all of our membership outreach in here and how we connect with our sponsors and key partners of the COBRT. We've got a great team, those four legs of the stool between policy, events, the media, and certainly the biz networking and outreach and opportunity to multiply efforts. And so we're excited to be here and work with so many great groups in the state of Colorado.
Thanks, Jeff Wasden, president of the Colorado Business Roundtable. We'll be back after this break. We'll talk more about Colorado Business Roundtable, sort of a year in review. Stay with us. Thanks so much for staying with us here for Connect and Collaborate. Today we are talking with Jeff Wasden from the Colorado Business Roundtable. He is the president of the COBRT. And we are kind of looking at a bit of a year in review for the Colorado Business Roundtable. Jeff, what have you all accomplished this year?
You know, we've had an incredible opportunity this year to really focus on some key issues I think are so critical to Colorado business leaders and our labor and workforce. I think really what we're trying to do is bring together and marry that passion with purpose, right? And how we attack things in a fiercely bipartisan way. And I think that's so important, right? We're not about the politics, we're about the policies. The Colorado Business Roundtable really focuses on strengthening those regional ties, and we do so through a lot of events. I think it's also important to really talk about the coalition of the willing, and I think that's part of the COBRT way as we start to bring folks together that are willing to work with and partner and understand why that's so important. You know, you always kind of hear that saying that there's not a big rush to the front of the line to take ownership of critical issues or crisis. You know, that people are looking for leaders, are looking for organizations that are willing to step up and take lead. And so we've been honored in several different things. One of the early events in the year was the Driving Colorado Forward, the big transportation event. When we wanted to really bring a couple groups that were out there, Fix It Colorado, CDOT, some economic development folks, and then our leadership of the House and Senate. And to really talk about why this matters, why transportation infrastructure is so important to business, moving goods and service, and safety and productivity, and why that matters not only as an economic development tool, but a productivity and efficiency, and more importantly, an economic bottom line issue to companies. And so that was a great opportunity. Immigration is an area where the Business Roundtable continues to take the lead on in this state. Several different events. We were honored to host the big DACA press conference here with Mayor Hancock, with Congressman Polis, with Ginny Davidson, the new president of Metro State, with the Lieutenant Governor, Donna Lynn, with a couple of our dreamers. We've got a couple things that we'll chat about in the next segment as we continue to focus on this issue in several different areas of immigration reform. DACA and the Dreamers are one component, but certainly security of our communities is critically important to the Business Roundtable and our workforce, continuing to focus on ensuring that we eliminate the illegal magnet of illegal employment. And that's an important issue and a distinction. It's kind of a tongue twister. I know we talk about illegal, folks that are here illegally, illegal aliens, and I don't like that term, but whoever really talks about that magnet of illegal employment, right, and how we use things like E-Verify and why that's important, reforming our broken legal immigration system that we don't spend a lot of time dealing with. If you've got a easily efficient, high-functioning legal immigration system, you probably won't have the magnet of the illegal immigration issues that are there, and that's important to fix. And then certainly how we continue to workforce and ensure that business has the right skill set, the right talent, the right labor to move forward, and that goes into visa reforms and education and some of the critical components. We continue to work on things like USGLC, the United States Global Leadership Coalition, the importance of development, diplomacy, and defense, and why that matters to our nation, to our country. I'm honored to work on that, state steering committee as we move forward. Things like Secure Future, the Homeownership Opportunity Alliance, and that coalition to work on attainable, affordable housing, and the construction defects legislation that has been really crippling this state and our ability to provide a wide range and diverse housing options and affordable options around a lot of our transit stops, the TOD developments, but certainly as folks that are looking for starter homes, retirement homes, low maintenance homes, again in that workforce. Tax is an area that we've certainly been heavily vested in. There's a couple different groups. There's certainly a group involved in state sales tax and trying to reform a very complex issue as you look at the challenges from cities to counties, and certainly those that do business in multi-jurisdictions. You can look at car dealerships, you can look at Jake Jabs, American Furniture. That's a component, but we've really taken a lot of leadership into the national discussion on tax reform and tax cuts and why that's so important to business, reforming a very outdated, complex tax situation that's certainly blown up into tens of thousands of pages that business leaders, homeowners, individuals, families are spending billions of hours and billions of dollars every year to comply with this outdated, complex, uncompetitive tax code. Our tax rate is higher than most countries in the OECD world. It's important that we have a competitive rate, that American businesses can compete globally, that we move from a worldwide system to a territorial system. We've got trillions of dollars parked overseas. It's important that we have a tax code that allows those businesses to repatriate those earnings and bring those back overseas. So there's a lot of differences in that. The House and Senate have different plans. We'll talk a little bit more about that in that next hour as well. One of the big things that we did this year was the Western Pathways Conference. And, oh my goodness, what an incredible opportunity to talk about bringing together national partners, the United States Chamber of Commerce Education Foundation, the Business Higher Ed Forum, the Education Commission of the States, these national partners, WECHE, the Western Interstate Commission on Higher Ed, the Workforce Development Council here in the state of Colorado, and Stephanie. We partnered with the Global Pathways Institute, Bill Simons and his team, to provide a conference here to really move what they were doing in a smaller scale and scale that up to a regional conference for the 19 western states. We had over 20-something states in attendance, 15 western states that provided state teams for a 3-day conference, 3 governors in attendance, Governor Dugard, Governor Bullock, Governor Hickenlooper that were in the conference, hundreds of attendees to really talk about what states can do. Right? There's some incredible conferences that are out there, but it's really how do you take that information, what you learn, and be able to start to impact your state, to implement the kind of policies and changes that are so important, to understand the landscape, the current resources that are going on. And that's critical, and it's so important as we continue to look forward. What a great event. We're so excited. We're already working for Utah, year 2.
Right.
Governor Herbert has really embraced that and is looking forward to moving Western Pathways to Utah. And we're already talking with Seattle and Washington for year 3 as that continues to move forward. It is amazing the amount of work and effort that goes into these. And I'm so thankful to have such an incredible team here with the Colorado Business Roundtable. You've got yourself and Alex that help on social media and radio, Lisa that helps with all of our membership outreach and events, Denise and Annette that help on the event and the administration side, Tim and Keenan that help on all the media and photography and graphic, flyers and all the stuff that we need and support that comes from there. And then certainly Gail and his overriding support of the roundtable. And then so many incredible partners, right? We've got so many folks that have stepped up to sponsor events. Lawrence Construction on the Moving Colorado Forward. Our ledge reception that just had things like Pharma, Bristol Myers Squibbs, South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce, AT&T that not only sponsored that event, but sponsors our congressional conference calls, Colorado State. I could go on and on. So many great partners that we work with.
You do have wonderful partnerships because every time you're planning an event, Jeff, it's amazing, and you'll mention some of the events and what you intend to do, and I'm like, how are you going to accomplish that? and you get these great partners that see the vision as well, and it all comes together every time.
Well, and we're very fortunate. The National Business Roundtable carries such credibility and such a big brand, again, as people understand that you're talking about the most powerful business organization in this country with the largest companies in the world, the most powerful CEOs. We were asked to host the Ready Nation report launch that really looked at Colorado and workforce development because of Western Pathways. And certainly we could talk about the workforce event we did with the Consulate General and the Governor, the Deputy Ambassador that flew out, again on that particular topic. But Ready Nation asked us. They've now, from the Council for a Strong America, have hired a team here in Colorado, and they looked to partners, and we were so honored to be asked to help launch that event. NAFTA, right? And you talk about the importance of trade and our work on TPA and TPP and what that matters, and now the negotiations around NAFTA. And we've been working and hosting some events on that with our friends at the Canadian Consulate General. We're working on an op-ed right now with our friends not only from the Canadian Consulate General, Stefan Lessard, but also our new Consul General from Mexico. And so stay tuned as we continue to talk about the importance of trade and that NAFTA negotiation and why that agreement is so important for us. Things like our work with Talent Found, and again, Stephanie and her team over at the Colorado Workforce Development Council and our work and role there in helping and support those. We talked about immigration. Certainly we hosted an incredible legislative reception, our 4th annual this year. That was such a great event. We're so honored to get an incredible turnout from so many legislators, not just from the Metro Denver area, but legislators that have taken the time to drive in for this event to support the business community and why that matters. Secure futures, para reform, important issue impacting us. And we've already had a transportation meeting as we looked at 2018. And again, I think in this next segment, we'll really start to talk about some of these critical issues facing the state, what we're working on right now, why it's important. But Just a ton of things going on. I could have shared 3 pages worth of information.
I think you did
here
share
of
3
events.
pages worth of
I
information.
got more. Do we have to go to commercial break?
We
I
do.
got more.
For
All
right
right,
now,
fine.
but we will be back with more with Connect and Collaborate, or with the Colorado Business Roundtable on Connect and Collaborate. We're talking with Jeff Wasden, president of the Colorado Business Roundtable, and thank you so much, Jeff, for that kind of year in review. Let's come back from this break and talk about exactly what Colorado Business Roundtable is doing right now.
Sounds great.
Be right back. Thanks so much for staying with us on Connect and Collaborate today. We're talking with Colorado Business Roundtable President Jeff Wasden. And Jeff, we really appreciate you're kind of able to give us a year in review in the last segment. Let's talk now about exactly what the COBRT is up to right now.
Yeah, I think there's probably 3, 4 things that we can really focus on that we're involved in today. One of the things I talked about was that international engagement, right, and trade, and why trade matters and why that's so important to the business community here in Colorado. I've shared a very simple way to look at expanding market share, and you talk about Boy Scouts, Girl Scout with cookies and popcorn.
Okay.
You can sell a limited amount to your neighbors, to your friends. 8 and 9-year-old kids have figured out sometimes you want to go where the population base, and they've gone to King Soopers and Walmarts and malls because that's where the greater numbers are. When you look at trade and you look at 95% of the world's population that lives outside of our border, 87% of the world's purchasing power that lies outside of America, you understand that we need to be globally engaged, and trade policy matters. And so things like TPA, Trade Promotion Authority, the TPP deal that ultimately was shot down, and now the current negotiations on NAFTA, and why that's important. NAFTA is a 23-year-old agreement between Canada and the United States and Mexico, trilateral agreement. That really talks about how we continue to drive growth, investment, and job creation. When you look at why that matters, you're looking at approximately 225,000 jobs in Colorado supported by trade, directly tied in with NAFTA. $4.5 billion in goods and services exported from our state right here in Colorado to NAFTA partners in 2015. 77% of the NAFTA goods imported to Colorado for materials are directly used by local businesses here in the state. NAFTA matters, trade matters, and as you look at the importance of this agreement, again, what we've chatted about during this segment is the Business Roundtable CEO mindset that's pragmatic, that's bipartisan, that's focused on policies, that's focused on results, that uses data and analytics to drive good decision making because it matters and it's important. So when it comes to trade, we've got a very prescriptive solutions to why this matters, why it's important, and fixes to the 23-year-old agreement that talk about strengthening and modernizing that agreement. Those are the things we work on with other partners, again, in the state of Colorado. Trade matters to so many industries in here, to our bio community, to our ag and farming community, to our technology community. They want to have the policies in place that allows them to compete, to sell more goods, ultimately to hire more Coloradans. So trade, international engagement is certainly something that's important. I teed up that we're working on an op-ed right now with Stefan Lessard, our Canadian Consulate General, who's a great partner and friend of the COBRT. The Mexican Consulate has a new Consul General there, Bernice Rendon. So we're excited to work with her again on these particular issues because it's important, it matters to Coloradans.
Well, and that's one of the things I want to point out about the Colorado Business Roundtable is the wonderful relationships that you're able to, I guess, kind of forge and maintain through the Colorado Business Roundtable, whether you bring some of those people on the radio show on Connect and Collaborate. You mentioned Stefan Lessard. We've had him on several times. We've also visited with him at the governor's mansion for an international, it was a Canada Day event, right?
Yeah,
and
Canada 150.
But think about all of these great leaders, these great connections that the Colorado Business Roundtable brings together, and anybody who's a member of the Colorado Business Roundtable has access to them.
Well, it's access, it's that reach, it's the relationships, and why that matters and why it's important. And to have an organization like the COBRT that's out fighting on these big issues, that ultimately we want you to be focusing on the goods and service and deadlines and your employees. Of the reason you got into business, to not be worrying about tax policy and regulatory relief and spending time on paperwork, We're here trying to make sure that that landscape is convenient, that it's free of those landfalls, those potholes that we have enough on the roads. We don't need them
in
the business world and policy as well. So certainly let's shift into immigration, and we've chatted a lot. We've got a lot of opportunities. We've done a lot of things here with the COBRT on some policy work with certainly Congresswoman DeGette, with Congressman Mike Kaufman, with Senator Gardner. Senator Bennett, of course, has been a key leading figure on immigration with the Gang of Eight. We had a great roundtable with Congressman Polis recently as well. This is an area that matters to business. It matters to communities. It matters to families. We talk about it being such an economic engine. We talk about the social side and why it matters and the importance to families and these, in the case of DACA, these young dreamers that were brought here through no fault of their own, why that matters to give them a hope for a future because they live here, they work here, they're contributing to our society. But immigration's a bigger policy issue than just DACA and dreamers. We need a fix for that, but we also want to ensure that communities are safe. Again, that we take care of some of these outdated visa systems and caps that are 35 years old. No business owner out there is working on a 35-year-old outdated business plan.
Right.
You need to be flexible and current and change with technology and resources and efficiencies and production and times and seasons in the ag community. That matters, and so having a good, sound, robust energy policy matters, or immigration policy matters. Tax policy. Yeah, you may be hearing a lot about that right now. We were asked certainly to be a key player here in the state with so many great partners, and I think that's really what I want to continue to stress is with some incredible partners. Tony Gagliardi at NFIB, Chuck Berry over at the State Chamber, Tim Heaton with CAMA, Andrea Young over at the Colorado Technology Association, Bob Gold and Dennis Housen in the Chamber. Well, I could go on. Tax reform matters. Tax cuts are important, but reforming an outdated tax system matters to business. It matters to business leaders. It matters to families. We spend an exorbitant amount of time focusing on conforming with an outdated, cumbersome, uncompetitive business code that's not fair. We want a simple, easy, fair tax policy that folks can fill out. We're talking about doubling the personal deduction, the exemptions that are there, so folks can move from 12,000 to 24,000. Only 30% of the population itemizes right now. This may drill that down so folks can take that exemption right now, that deduction, the standard deduction that's so important. The corporate tax rate, repatriating funds and moving from that worldwide system to a territorial system. The big bugaboo on tax right now, one of them is certainly the SALT, the state and local taxes. That's an important issue for some of our high tax states, California, New York, New Jersey. When you start talking about personal deductions, things that are important, the stakes get higher because it's meaningful to them, to that industry, to folks that utilize that as a tool. The leadership of the Big Six talks about the gaming of the system, that people are using those loopholes and those deductions to take advantage of the system. So they're trying to create a process where that's fair, where it's level, where those kind of opportunities to create the unfairness in the system and game it are removed, and so the system works for every American. Condensing the brackets. Again, I could go on in tax policy, and it's something that we'll continue to work on. It's moved through the House. Right now the Senate's going through markups, more than likely because you've got two very, very different plans. They'll be in conference committees. They work to iron out those differences, again, having to fit within reconciliation instructions on a 1.5 thing so it doesn't get ruled out of order. The ability to get that done is critical to business. It's critical to our companies that are wanting to make investments, to bring money back, to hire more goods, to make those capital investments. So we'll continue to work on that. One thing that I know we spent a lot of time talking about collaboration on our big upcoming awards on December 6th and 7th, the awards at the Cable Center on the 7th. We're so excited about that particular event, but that same day, just because you know, most that would take 3 days off after a big event like that, we're going to have an I-March. We've been asked by national immigration groups to host the Colorado Day as they look at a 50-state rollout of immigration and shining a light again on the importance for immigration and getting something done on DACA for our dreamers. So stay tuned. I think we're going to be partnering with Metro State. So we're going to go right from the cable center right to yet another event, because that's what we like to do.
No sense slowing down.
Chaos and the Energizer Bunny, which is our mascot here at the COBRT. And then, oh my goodness, we're already working and planning for 2018, which is so exciting, to talk about all the stuff coming up next year, because we're going to continue to fight, get bigger, better, and do a better job for our business community.
Let's talk more about what's coming up for the Colorado Business Roundtable in 2018 when we come back from this break. We are so glad you're joining us today on Connect and Collaborate. I have Jeff Wasden here. He's the president of the Colorado Business Roundtable. And we've been talking a little bit of a year in review, a little bit of what you're doing now, and let's talk about what you have in store for 2018.
Yeah, you know, for a guy that's not really well known for the details, you start to realize the more you have these events, how much work goes into and how much planning has to be done.
Oh, because it's easy to say, let's have this event and let's have that event.
Yeah, fly by the seat of the pants, little spontaneity, never hurt anybody, we'll throw something together. But I am so appreciative of so many people behind the scenes that actually make these things actually work, right? That care about so many of the important things that we're doing. And yeah, we've already got a 2018 events calendar underway, with several things already on the docket. Starting off first and foremost, and we want to thank our partners over at AT&T that host our congressional conference calls. We'll continue to do those next year because we think it's an important opportunity for our business leaders that can't continue to do what I do when flying back and forth to D.C. to get to meet our congressional delegation, to hear what they're working on that impacts business, which is so important, and then ask questions, right, that are important to them and their memberships and their organizations. So we'll keep doing those. We start out in January partnering with South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce on their economic forecast breakfast. We're honored to partner with them. In conjunction with that event, we'll also be doing an event with Fix the Debt with Maya McGinnis and that organization. We've been a great partner of theirs. She'll be speaking at the economic forecast breakfast, but we're also going to partner a Fix the Debt event. Tax reform, important issue, but certainly there's debt implications. We're moving quickly toward $20 trillion in debt, and at some point that is unsustainable, and we're passing a significant anchor and burden onto our kids and grandkids that's unsustainable, and we need to get that under control. We're happy to work on that particular issue. We hosted last year, one of the things I didn't is we were talking about all the events because there was so much going on, but we did a Colorado Energy and Manufacturing Day with Senator Gardner, Senator Bennett, with our friends over at Consumer Energy Alliance, Andrew Browning and Emily. A phenomenal event and opportunity to highlight that. It was so popular, people have asked us to take that on the road. So we're going to do a three-city road tour and talk about energy and manufacturing and why that matters, not just to the Front Range, but we're going to go to Pueblo, we're going to go to Grand Junction, up to the Greeley, Fort Collins area and work on those particular issues and talk about that with local community leaders. So we're excited about that. We're going to continue our Finding Colorado's Next Governor series, not only on the radio, which we continue to do the last day of the month, business day of the month. We've had some incredible candidates. We're very, very fortunate in this state to have great candidates on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, people are willing to put themselves out there.
In today's time of social media and the amount of scrutiny and background and vitriol that's out there and the negative barbs that continue to get tossed around, to anybody willing to serve, we're so fortunate to have great folks willing to do that. We've been able to have this radio series. That'll continue. But
in conjunction with the Denver Business Journal, and they're going to be they'll then put together a series based on all these interviews.
A couple great events. They're going to be doing a print series, and then we're going to take it to History Colorado, dates of February 21 and March 29. We're going to host the business gubernatorial candidate debates and forums. February 21st will be the Republican candidates for governor. That field has changed slightly. We've had a couple additions. Former Congressman Tancredo, our Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman that have got in the race, our current district attorney George Brockler in the 18th JD, who was running for governor because Cynthia has left the AG seat, who is now moving and running for Attorney General. So a couple changes there. February 21 will be the Republicans. March 29th, sorry about that. March 29th we'll have the Democrat candidates. And then again, we'll be at History Colorado. We're working on the save the date. The venue's already locked down. Denise and team are already looking at menu options,
Yes.
which is incredible to think that far away, but we're going through
Oh.
food, and Lisa's
If
going to
you've
get...
planned anything, you know that's not that far
I know.
out.
The flyer will be coming, the save the date. We expect both of those to sell out, so get ready for those. We are so honored to work with the aerospace community in this state, and starting with Jay Lindell and the governor's emphasis on the aerospace and as a critical economic driver and sector in the state. There are so many what we call primes and subprime companies, from Northrop to Ball Aerospace to Lockheed Martin to Boeing, and then on to 500 or so smaller companies that support and supply goods and services, not only to the larger companies, but to key components on Orion and the International Space Station. We've had a Colorado Day at the Capitol, Aerospace Day at the Capitol. We're going to expand that into a whole week of activities. And so COBRT is going to host the Citizens for Space Exploration event on March 22nd. That'll be right here at our event center. As we really talk about how everybody in Colorado can be a space enthusiast that can support the mission. And we have a great DC fly-in. We take folks out to DC. We meet with congressional leaders and talk about the importance of space exploration, these missions that are so important to not only our national security and national interests and research and development, but also to the workers in this industry and field and Colorado economy. So that's coming up. Oh my goodness, I keep going. We've got a state of higher ed that's already on the books. I was so honored and a little bit shocked and amazed. Anybody that's involved in event planning that tries to get a date set with different business leaders that are busy, that are important, that are doing great work, knows that is sometimes the hardest thing to do is to find a date, right? Getting folks to agree to talk about an issue is easy. Getting a date that everybody can come to and show up,
it in front of
schedules and time is challenging. But we've got the four leaders of University of Denver, Colorado State, Metropolitan State University at Denver, and CU, all four of those, Janine Davidson, Rebecca Chop, Tony Frank, and Bruce Benson, coming together to talk about the state of higher ed, a first-time event for us next year that'll happen in April. I believe that's April 4th. That'll be a lunch meeting. And again, that date's set, and you'll get more information about that. But the importance of higher ed, and really the changes that need to occur in higher ed, right? We've talked a lot about workforce and education and why that matters to the COBRT, the business community, to employers. But that really impacts what's going on in the higher ed system, right? And what changes? How do they become more nimble and agile and changing and making those transitions to jobs that haven't even been created yet, that they're supposed to educate folks and prepare them for the future. This fourth industrial revolution of AI and robotics and analytics and technology and is really changing as we look at the efficiencies within the business community and how we compete globally and the skill set that's required of those workers. And so higher ed's going to come together to talk a lot about what they're doing. We're going to do the View from the Top event again. It was an incredible event that we had, bringing Mike Freeze together with John Hayes and Jackie Hinman, and why that was such a powerful event, from hearing from some of Colorado's top CEOs to talk about the challenges they're facing, the decision makings and the processes they go through, the opportunities to expand and grow their companies within the state, why good policy matters. And we were asked to do that again this year. A great partnership with the Denver Business Journal. We can't thank our friends over there. I will give a shout out to Neil Westergaard, who announced his retirement from the DBJ. Pete, Ed, and Kathy, and I could go down, Monica, the whole team over there. You've got a big loss and some significant shoes to fill with Neil stepping away. But our partnership with the DBJ on these types of events like Finding Colorado's Next Gov and these governor forums and debates and View from the Top are amazing. We love that collaboration and partnership with them. But that event will be coming on again. We're going to do that Colorado Energy Manufacturing Day again and make that a big annual event. Our ledge reception will go into year 5. We've already got a date set for that, and we'll get that out there. And then our awards luncheon. And you notice I said awards lunch, and this year it was
Right.
collaboration in industry. We're going to have discussions internally as a team, and so everybody on my team get ready. Do we go with collaboration again, or do we change that to champions in industry and heroes in industry, and tweak that? You look at champions in industry, you could bring in so many great Olympians and professional athletes to talk about being champions and heroes,
Fun,
because you've
yeah.
got industry champions and business leaders that are champions each and every day. You can talk about warriors in the military and folks fighting and battling to stay in business and work. So there's some tweaks and twists in that, but we're excited to have that as an annual event of the Colorado
That's
Business
awesome.
Roundtable. So stay tuned. We will be heavily invested. Tax reform may not be done. That could be continuing on into next year. Certainly immigration and some of these key policy issues. That's what we're here for. We're so excited to work with great leaders across this state. We're so excited to work with each and every one of you as we fight to continue to make sure that the policies in the state of Colorado, from the federal all the way down to local issues and local policies matter, that they're done so in a way that helps you do business. We are honored. Thank you for working with us. We look forward to a strong 2018.
Thank you so much, Jeff Wasden, President of the Colorado Business Roundtable, for giving us just that recap, not only what's coming up for the Colorado Business Roundtable, we had a year in review, and what we're doing now. Thanks so much for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Drive safe.